I don't know. There were some naysayers in my hometown that were like, she's not going to make it. What do you mean I have to go on middle of the show for a track that I haven't done ever? Guys, we're just on a floating rock playing pretend and dancing and singing.
You guys, today I am sitting down with Ryan Winkler, who's currently a swing on the national Broadway tour of & Juliet. He's also a fellow suburb turned New York City girl who has an amazing outlook and approach to a performance career. This episode will not only have you feeling inspired and motivated, but also give you so many tactical tools to build a multifaceted career. Before we get into it, if you are not yet subscribed or following the show, make sure you do so. Your support means the absolute world to me, and it helps continue to bring in awesome guests and give you all of the inspo and tools. Welcome back to Kicking It Real. I'm here with Ryan, you guys. She's amazing. She's currently on the first national Broadway tour of & Juliet as a swing. She's the social media captain and has just worn so many different hats. I'm not even going to say all of them because we're going to get into them. So welcome, Ryan, to Kicking It Real.
Thanks, Gabby. So happy to be here.
We're live from my parents' basement closet, your hotel room. So we're doing good right now.
Yeah, we're
going to warm it up. We're living our dream lives right here. What have you been kicking it with lately?
Kicking it with? Ooh, I'm kind of obsessed with time blocking recently. This is something that actually one of my bosses talked about in a training we did once. And especially with this job, when, like you mentioned, I'm wearing so many hats where I want to be like Ryan, and then I have to be swing, and then I have to be marketing coordinator. I need those time chunks to be okay with putting something down and moving on to the next thing. Otherwise, they'll all blend. So that is what I'm kicking it with is time.
I love that. And I think I've been in that season as well of just you have to be so intentional with your time. I think, which I have for later to get into too, like the perfectionist of it. I don't know if you're this way where you I find myself spending then too much time on one thing because I'm like, oh, well, it could always be better. And you're like, actually, this is more than good. Let's move on to the next task.
Right. Exactly.
I love it. What are you kicking to the curb?
So I'm turning 30 in a few months, and I feel like I'm kicking timelines to the curb. You know what I mean? Just leave the timeline up.
Sure do.
Yeah.
That it's such a loaded thing of especially as a woman, I don't know what it is.
We're
supposed to be married at this time. We're supposed to be, it's just, but also I love that it's just breaking lately to the norms of
1,000%
timelines, I guess. It's because of people like you. But anyway, we'll get into it. Ryan's also a fellow Texas girly. I wouldn't say I'm like you. I am a not born into Texas girly, but you grew up in a small town in Texas. What sparked the initial dreams of big city, New York City performing? Talk us through that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I always say I grew up in Austin, but that's such a lie. I grew up north of Austin in a tiny, tiny town called Burnett. Gorgeous town. So many lakes, so many things to do outdoors. And luckily there was, a dance studio that happened to have, I had one instructor basically my entire life. And luckily she was ballet trained. And so my training was really solid.
Really?
And when you grow up in a small town, boredom hits and you try to find your thing because everyone's in sports. And I did that for a while, but then I found dance and I was just like, this is an incredible thing. And then I found out that I was kind of good at it. And then I just wanted to keep going. And I saw a national tour in Austin at Bass Hall, which is where I'm playing this summer, which is going to be very full circle. And it was a chorus line national tour. And ever since then, I was just like, I want to do that. And then when I was 15, my mom was like, let's make this New York City dream happen for you and we'll go visit. And I got to see Wicked on Broadway. And that was really when it sealed the deal. I was like, I want to come here. And multiple things kind of came into my path that made it seem even more possible. I think just wanting to get out of my small town and having parents and a support system that were like, you could do that. Yeah.
I think that's so key for all of the people I talk to and just our friends in life that are in this field. It's just something I hate to say it, you're born different. It's you're wired differently, which is cool that you had the outlet and the experience to do that. And also the whole, I was pretty good at it. That felt good. You're like, wow, there's so many. We're what else would I do with my life. Like, of course, like I love this and I'm good at it. Did anyone go the college route or like the professional route from your town or studio, or were you kind of the first for that?
There was one girl, and I'll shout her out. Her name's Meg Robb, and she was a rangerette at Kilgore actually, but then she moved on and moved to New York City about the time that I was like in high school. And so really looking at colleges. And so that was definitely for me like okay, she's in New York City and she's not dying. Like I could do that too, but instead I just went straight there for college, So that was definitely, I was the first one in my studio setting to be like, no, I'm going straight to like a BFA program in New York. And I'm happy to say that like there's been 4 or 5 girls out of this tiny little town that have done the same, either going to New York or LA. And I feel so responsible for them. I just feel like if anything goes wrong, you tell me because I'm going to come help you.
That's like the point of life we're in where you're like, it's almost more rewarding. Like when you see people, like you paved the way for people, you like can't even, I don't know, especially as you teach a lot too, just being on the other side. I have those moments too where I'm like, whoa, like when did I get here? Like this is, how did that like happen?
Yeah.
Like but it's the best thing ever. Can you talk to us a little bit about your college application process? Because I also like, this is just going to set you up, like everyone listening up, if they don't already know you, like just, it makes sense. Like you're the type of person and worker that you are.
Yeah, no, I love this question. For a while, I kind of hid from this question because I was embarrassed by it. But I had the dream of going to Pace University.
On Broadway.
Pace University's commercial dance program was something I wanted since I was like 14 because I met Rhonda Miller, who directed it at the time at a summer Texas dance convention in Houston, Sugarland. And I kept that connection with her. And she was speaking of this new program she started in college in New York City, where you not only did ballet and jazz training, but you did hip hop and tap. And you had electives like aerial and puppetry and singing and acting. So to me, that was like everything I wanted. And it was new at the time. And so I was like, I got to get there. And so from like 14 to graduating as a senior, that was all I wanted. Of course, I applied to other things in case, but that was where I wanted to be. I had like Pace merch all over my room. I had this like New York mural. I was living and breathing it. And come, senior year, everyone applies academically. All of that worked out totally fine. And I went to the Pace audition in Dallas, actually, which I really appreciated because it was a smaller group.
Yeah.
And it felt kind of like home turf, them coming to me a little bit. And I actually was in the same audition room as Stevie, who is a rockette, who's now like my best friend ever. So I remember doing like pirouettes across the floor for jazz audition technique. And anyway, that happened in November and we didn't find out until March what happened. So you're just waiting. You're like, what's going to happen?
Late. It's people so like late. Are committed to like colleges. And,
Right. Ugh. And like, I was like, whatever, top 10 in my high school. Like I could have easily gone the automatic acceptance route, which so many of my friends did and loved, but they knew by January where they were going. And I'm sitting here being like, I have this dream. I don't know what's going to happen. And once I got a letter in March, because this was before like emails and portals were a thing, you got direct mail.
Surely.
I got something in the mail that said I was on the wait list, which I didn't even know existed. I think this was my first time applying. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? Obviously, I sobbed at first because I was like, oh, my whole dream could come crashing down. And I think I was so depressed in the studio. I took like a week of like, you could tell I wasn't my best self. And then I decided like, you know what? This is a maybe. And I'm going to keep like getting on their radar. And so I wrote handwritten letters to the guy at admissions named Wayne. We're besties now. I emailed him all the time, asking for updates, just being like, I'm so interested. I don't think you understand how much of a dream school this is for me. I promise like this spot will be taken care of if it comes to me. And then I was in drill team in high school and I was in my officer period class, which is kind of like a do nothing class, honestly. And I got a phone call, but I missed it from Rhonda Miller. And so then I get a voicemail saying, call me back when you can. And so I called her and she was like, congratulations, honey. Like, I'm so proud of you. Spots opened up and you're officially like a Pace commercial dance class of 2018. And I started sobbing. It just felt like I don't know. It was like that first hurdle in the dance world that I really had to overcome. Going to conventions and not getting a scholarship is nothing in comparison to like what you think your next 4 years are going to be. Yeah. And so I'm very proud of myself for continuing to fight for that.
I am obsessed with that story just because for so many reasons. But like, I would have never had the courage to do that. And like, that is the 1,010% right thing to do if you want something is fight for it and not be afraid to ask and not be afraid of more rejection. But truly, no, I'm like literally so obsessed with that story. As dancers are so afraid to like ask for what we want and like just go after it. So if anyone listening, like that happens, I think we think that it's going to come across as, I don't know, aggressive or needy or annoying. But I feel like to me, as being on a person on the other side, I would be like, dang, okay, like this girl wants it. And maybe you weren't like next in line, but I'm gonna bump you because you're putting in the work and the effort, and that's going to reflect into what you do in the program. When you moved to New York City and you obviously got in and probably loved it, what was the hardest part identity shift wise? Or did you feel that at all going from small town to New York?
I felt really quite fearless. Like it was just something I wanted for so long and it was happening and it was my dream. And like I went to school right by the Brooklyn Bridge. So if ever I needed like a reminder, I would literally just look out my dorm window and I see that. And so of course it was really hard because you come from a big, you're a big fish in a small pond, and then you go and everyone's a big fish from their small pond. And it was an extremely talented program, like most competitive thing I've ever been a part of, but also the most supportive in the same way. Like we were all just trying to figure it out. And so I think identity wise, it was more so just being like, I had this waitlist thing kind of hanging over me and I was interested to see how that played out. Like, because there was, of course, moments. I wasn't perfect of being like, no, you deserve to be here. There were definitely moments where I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm the underdog and I'm not used to that feeling, but we're gonna ride with it. And I'm here and I'm living my dream. And Stevie was my roommate freshman year. And so both of us had like such similar experiences, like of where we grew up and the dreams we had. And so I think sharing that with her was really amazing and helpful. But yeah, there was definitely a part of me that was like, I'm definitely not the best in this program. And how am I going to like switch the mental to be okay with that? Yeah. So I think the only identity shift that I really had was in the dancing of it. But like living in New York and having that experience, that was everything I ever wanted.
Like felt like home in that way, probably.
Home. Yeah.
Almost. Well, it's like both ends of it where it's you could focus on the one thing of I'm the underdog and I was waitlisted, or you could flip it how you were saying of like I'm so grateful to be here. I'm going to work extra hard.
Yeah.
Which I always say sometimes I love the whole adversity for any dancer because it just makes you work harder and be able to push through things versus if you went in, I'm the best dancer here. You have that like ego and that turns into all other sorts of things. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, it turns into a lot. Do you think that there were mostly pros going from New York City in college to then that transition out of college? You already knew it. Do you feel like that was mostly pros, and what were they?
The transition, I luckily graduated in 2018. So I had like 2 years before that thing called COVID happened. And I mean, like immediately just like hit the non-union audition scene. And I feel like because I had 4 years of like incubation in New York, I got to learn the subway system. I got to figure out the fun places to go. I got to just like understand the energy of the city and how things can change on a dime. It made the transition. I basically just moved apartments. Like we just moved from the FIDI financial district up to West Harlem, And so it was more so just like changing apartments and then changing routine, but you're still kind of in the same city. And so for me, it wasn't that bad because I still was roommates with like my pace friends. But the audition grind was crazy. And I think like figuring out, I actually worked at Pure Bar in college, which is so funny. I love that connection for us.
I forget this.
Yeah, I worked in the front desk, the morning shifts before going to ballet. And then I still kept that job. So like that was like a constant. So like every day I was still going downtown to work there and then just like audition in the afternoons. But
I love it. I'm jumping a little bit right now, but did you ever want to go? I feel like people go like the teaching dance fitness route, or they go like a completely different route, which again, I'm getting so ahead of myself, but did you ever want that? Or were you like, no, where did like the marketing inspiration start?
Yeah, I mean, I was like actually an intern at the personal training intern at Equinox Wall Street in college because I thought that would be a great supplement to, dance life. And I like to cross train already. I was in athletics growing up, like all those things. I was like, yeah, that's going to be great for me. And then pretty quickly after college, I booked my first cruise ship. So I think because of like timing and stuff, going and doing that for 8 months was just like the trajectory I had. And then coming back early 2019, like basically COVID kind of just started too. So it was actually during COVID that I did get personal trainer certified, but I also became an intern for multiple like gyms and studios doing marketing. So it was kind of tenfold together. And I just kind of like saw which one built itself more and then stuck with that.
Yeah. Which we can get into that more in a little bit too. Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like you need almost not need it, but you kind of like the one just got you to the other one.
Yeah.
It's like that little segue into it.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Back to auditioning. Sorry. We jumped. I know it's hard. So for you being fresh out of college, but already knowing New York, what was the hardest part and or different than what maybe you were expecting?
Yeah. Everyone talks about like you'll get so many no's before you get a yes. And you, for some reason in the back of your head, kind of think you might be the exception to that. And so I think
that's so real.
So real. And like, I'm not afraid to say that, like, cause I knew what I had to offer and I was confident in it as much as I could be at 22, I think the hardest part though was just like seeing the mass numbers of the people who wanted the same thing. Cause at Pace, like you have 30 kids in each class. So like max 150 kids and everything's very like by class, very regulated. So when you're auditioning for things, it's still not as much as like when you go to Ripley Greer or Pearl Studios and there's 400 people lined up outside at 5 a.m. And that was every single day for my first audition season, like January through April. And that was like the year the Hairspray tour had that open call. Like it was just insanity. And I definitely hit a point where I was like, why am I even going? Like I'm one of 400 people. I'm a blonde white girl. Like I'm one in a million. Like what am I doing? So there was definitely that moment that shook me a bit.
Yeah. What do you think made you resilient? Because here we are today.
And the fact that like my family believes in me, like I just always would go back and I started keeping track actually in a note, like of all the good things that were happening audition wise or even at Pace. There was a moment where I was like, I need to like write down all these good things that happened once so that when things get really bad, I can remind myself that like that also happened too. And I think, I call my mom a lot. And listen, my mom is not like, you're the best ever. You're, like she's supportive of me, but she's very real. And she's like, you love this and you're going to, if you still love it, like keep doing it. And if you don't, I absolutely believe like you'll be successful in whatever you want to do. But I know how much you love this. And I think it was just a bad day. And so having people like in my ear saying things like that, when I got to a place where it was so low, I was like, okay, I mean, they're right. That's true. And I think there's something, and you can attest to this. Like you have that inner child in you. You've had this dream for so long that why would you throw it away after like a bad week, when you feel like there's something so close.
Yeah. And it's like, detaching the current situation, like from your worth a little bit too. Like, I think that was, especially when you're fresh out of college and younger, for me, it's hard to not take it so personally of like,
yes,
I am not good enough and when people would be like, well, there's so many factors that go into it. But when you're in it, sometimes it's like, no, that's not good enough. Like, no, it's me. I have the problem. And then like the older you get and the more you see things, you're like, no, like there is other things. And I think I also call my mom all the time and she's always there for me. Did you have any experience of people that maybe weren't so good for you and that you had to distance yourself from to protect yourself?
That's a great question. I think there were definitely people in my hometown that were supporters of. There were definitely people, I think, growing up who like had my back until I made this decision that I wanted to go to the big city. And so I don't know, there were some naysayers in my hometown that were like, oh, she's not going to make it, or like this is just too lofty of a dream to get to right away. And so I think I had some of that in the back of my head, but I wanted to prove them wrong so badly. Like, as much as I wanted to prove it to myself, I was also thinking of like the young girls at my studio, and I wanted to do that for them too. Like, I just wanted to prove that it is possible, and this big crazy dream is totally there for you to accept when it's your turn. And I don't know. I think I did a really good job of keeping negative energy out of my life once I got to New York. Like, I found my friends, I found my pack. And I mean, to be honest, living in a 4-bedroom apartment in New York where all of us are auditioning at the same time and going to the same auditions, like, there were times when that could feel weird because like someone will get a call back for the thing you just went to too and you didn't. Some people have agents, some don't. You're constantly kind of like comparing. But then as soon as that shuts off, we were very good at being like, okay, let's just have like a wine night on the couch and hang out with our friends from West Point, you know? like let's just be normal friends.
Shout out, Pat.
Shout out, Pat.
I love that quote. Not quote, but I see this concept all the time now of your real friends can not only be there for you when it's a bad day, but they can support you when you're having a good day or you're having wins. So that boundary of people are actually your friend for you and they're not adding that into it. And I love that you said to prove people wrong, because not that you ever want to approach things from a negative motive, but I do feel like there is power in taking that negative and then using it as fuel and using it productively rather than just being like, oh my gosh, people don't believe in me and like I'm sad about it, and just be like, no, like it's like that tenacity, that determination. I mean, I had the same thing where I'm like, no,
Right,
I'm
I'm
going to prove you
sure.
wrong. I know I can do this and I don't care. If you had one piece of like advice or like something really important that you did or wish you would have done going into auditioning, what would it be?
I think like halfway through, I started an audition log journal because my voice teacher told me to. And I wish I would have started that earlier because it's almost like you immediately go from this very emotional process of going in the room and doing this dancing thing and then possibly singing for them on your lonesome to then writing it down on paper and just kind of like factualizing it. Like, you take it from this emotional place to just putting it down. And I felt like once I started doing that, that was so helpful. And I even got as detailed as to like who the casting was, obviously, the creative team that was in the room, what I was wearing, if I got a call back, yes or no, so that then I could start to like what I sang, if I got a call back, that type of thing. If things were starting to go well for me, or like creative teams were really interested in me, or casting team, like then it became like this kind of game in a sense of where I was like still going in and doing my best work and presenting myself as like, hi, I'm Ryan. But then I could take it away and on the subway going home, you know, just like put it down on paper, and it made me like release it a little bit. And I think
I'm obsessed with that.
I think I wish I would have known that a little earlier. Yeah.
That is so good. That is so good.
Yeah.
And because being out of it, the hindsight, I love the data aspect of it like that. And it sounds silly, but sometimes it's literally like what you were wearing and not that you looked bad, or it's just, maybe it looked different to this and it didn't fit the role. I actually have a friend who was on one of my episodes and she auditioned for a company, wore something. One of her friends was in the company and he said, hey, the director didn't like this, wear this. She went to like a different city and she booked it.
It's like
I mean, sometimes it's so
crazy.
Simple like that.
It is.
Yeah, but it's...
no one tells you that it could be that simple, really.
Yeah, and then you're just like, okay, now I just want to be better. It's just data. Data makes it feel less personal, I think.
Correct.
Which, like you said, you can just release it and be like, okay, like how can I show up better next time? And incrementally getting better every time. Oh, wow. That was really good advice. Really good. Okay. Let's go to your injury and how that led you to where you are, though. Because you literally were coming off your labrum tear and then hello Broadway. So talk to us about that, experiencing a major injury.
Crazy. Yeah. I mean, background, I've never been injured in my life. Like, knock on wood. I was playing basketball simultaneously doing dance growing up. And so I was constantly cross training without knowing it. Like, you know, like we would go to the weight room and then I would run the track and then I'd go to 4 hours of dance. Like, I just always had that going for me. And then I carried that through and realized that was kind of superpower of mine. And so when I did get this injury, that kind of happened out of nowhere, I felt immediately defeated. I was like, well, I messed up. Like, I've gone 28 years and now here we are. Like, of course, Ryan, like all of this is happening in my head. And then I had to like step away and just be like, no, it's bound to happen. It's about when it happens and it's about how you manage it. And once I got through that kind of headspace, everything became a lot easier. But yeah, I tried a lot of things first. I didn't want to get an MRI. I didn't want to know for a long time. So I went to like PT, manual
Make it
physical
real.
therapy. I didn't want it to be real. I didn't want someone to tell me that I had that, even though I could feel it. And so, yeah, it was just overuse, lots of right bot maws. It was like my left labral hip tear. And I got the diagnosis. And then after that, once I did, they were like, just try resting for 6 weeks, see how your pain diminishes, keep doing these exercises. You don't have to like stop walking and doing the things you love, just like chill out on the dancing for a second. And I did. And then the one audition I went to, because it was meaningful to me, was the Anne Juliet Tour ECC. And here we are, which is crazy.
That is crazy. Like, I mean, that's the whole, I know you believe in this too, the what's meant for you won't pass you. Like,
Yes.
I cannot think of a better example than that.
Yeah.
You literally weren't doing anything and you were probably, were you in pain at the audition?
Honestly, I wasn't, because I was about 4 weeks into resting and I wasn't in pain. And so I went to the audition and it was actually so good. I felt winded, of course, but like physically, I didn't feel pain. And so that was also really exciting to me. Yeah.
Almost like a little sign too, maybe.
It was a
from the
sign. And
universe,
honestly,
like, wait, whoa, that just feels good.
yeah, it's not a show where you're like kicking your leg. It's all hip hop based. So it was also kind of a gift from the universe being like, here you go, you almost 30-year-old. Here's some movement that supports longevity.
Like, your hips can rest for a second. Thank
Your
you.
hips can rest.
Do you,
Yep.
other than your, obviously, like your pain, not tolerance, your pain, how you were feeling, was there anything different that you felt when you were at that audition that felt different than maybe other ones?
Yeah, no, definitely. I was so just released from everything because all I was focusing on was myself and getting better, that I had no expectations. And what's really awesome, and the reason I went to the ECC, is because I knew the associate choreographer from the same convention that I met Rhonda Miller at in Sugarland. And I knew that I was right for the show in the sense of like how I present and my style and all of that. I'm not a hip hop dancer, but like they need people who can dance and sing and be crossovers and do all these things. And I've had multiple people tell me that that is a show that I need to keep going in for. So when I saw her name on the breakdown, I was like, I gotta go dance for Tiny. Like, I want to share space with her. She's the best. So I just went in being like, I want to share space and I want to do this. And it was an open call ECC. Like, there wasn't an agent call. I just got off my couch and was like, I want to do this. And I did it. And then that led to a invited audition call and then 2 callbacks later. And here we are. Yeah. It did feel different.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You can't see it. I have chills underneath this.
Yeah, chills. You're so
cool. I like that. I love those stories. Do you think, could you give, I don't want to keep using the word advice, but what would you say to people who are auditioning, and other than not getting an injury, but how can you like break through that without injuring yourself and having to sit out for 4 weeks?
Right. I think I got 2 opinions. That was really important to me. And I also went to an orthopedic who specialized in athletes and dancers. And I feel like that advice is something I'm really passionate about, because it's one thing to study the human body, but it's another to understand the experience of like an athlete or a dancer. This is their whole world. This is what they've been doing for years, and there is no option to not do it. So you need to find the people medically that support you and knowing, yeah, you're getting back, you're going to get back there ASAP, and I'm going to help support you in that. And so I think knowing that I had those people on my side made it way less scary, because then I obviously believed everything they said. Like, take 6 weeks, promise you'll feel better, and then you can continue on with your life. And I was like, because I respect you and you know exactly what my goal is, that made it easier for me to not just be like, I hate my life. I was listening to professionals and
Yeah.
that was it.
Well, it's the opposite of when I got my point shoes, I had to like get an X-ray to make sure that I was not still growing.
Yes.
But the doctor was like, well, like, yeah, you're done growing, but you should really never, it's going to ruin your feet. You should never do this. Like, because we all have had those doctors where they're like, they just don't get it. They're like, just don't do that. Like, what do you mean? Granted, I was like 10, like young, so it's so different.
Right.
But just, it all goes back to your support, your
It
people.
does. It does. And sometimes it takes a second to find those people, but like they're out there for sure.
But yeah, I think it's just like that sign of just if you feel your energy getting drained from professionals or just anyone you're around and like connecting with the right people. And I mean, it's crazy that your connections weren't even like Pace. It was from high school, from your small town. You were able to get out there.
I know. And like, I promise I'll serve on the board of that convention one day because there's so many reasons that like I got to where I am because of that little incubation in a summer week in Texas. Like it is honestly crazy. So I'm very grateful. Yeah.
You can be on that board and empower as well.
Yes,
of course.
Empower. Yes.
And shout out Empower. We love.
Shout out Empower.
Okay, let's get into the show. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. As a swing, we gotta get into it. You're covering four tracks, or I'm sorry, 5. Excuse me. What have been I use the word best challenges, specifically having to challenge your perfectionism that we all have as a dancer.
Yeah. We do some talkbacks on tour, and this is always something I talk about, how I personally struggle with perfectionism. And this has been the greatest job I could have ever asked for to challenge me in that. Because what do you mean I have to go on middle of the show for a track that I haven't done ever or in months? You know, I don't care who you are. Like if you have a brain the size of Earth, whatever it is, like it's impossible to retain all the detail information of a show, especially like this, and be on in a second, you know, like I had to release that I won't know my third covers perfectly in my brain without doing reps of it, you know, like I have been challenged in so many ways that have pushed me. And now I feel like a superhero being able to have a job like this where I essentially have to save the day. And it's not about ego in that sense. It's more so that I just enjoy supporting the show at large. And I love being that person to slot in when that is needed and have the show go on. Yeah.
It's so different, obviously, with my Rockette experience, which they're also superheroes, but even just in a show where I'm sure the tracks are also, you're in the same scene, but different, like completely different, like people and I think that people underestimate. I say this as if I've ever been a professional swing, but I think people underestimate like the disorientation of it and just being in it and the pressure, but then being able to release and be like, listen, not everyone else can just know multiple different things. On Broadway, it's typical to go on as a swing, right?
Yeah.
Like you usually book as a swing.
Very typical.
Which is so, wait, talk to me about that a little bit, just because in Precision World, usually you're, you know, in the line for a while and then you become a swing. So talk to us about that process.
Totally. I see what you mean. Like it's easy, not easier, but it happens more often that someone will book as a swing their first job rather than in the reverse of Rockette land. Yes. Okay. Yeah, for sure. I mean, first they always ask at auditions if that is something you would be interested in, especially as you start to go through more callbacks and things, because casting is just a game of chess. And so I was joining Anne Juliet tour in the second year. So there was already a year before. And so some people were staying, some people were leaving. They were trying to fill all these holes. And I expressed interest in being a swing. And so when it came down to that final game of chess, I think it just worked out to where that's where they saw me. You know, certain things in the audition can give away how you would manage yourself as a swing. Picking up choreo quickly, that's one of like my strengths for sure. And having like a vocal range where you could do multiple parts was also something that they look at without you knowing it, you know? And then I think just the energy you bring to a room as well, because you can't be a negative Nancy and be a swing because you will implode, you know? Positivity has to be kind of at the forefront of this thing. Otherwise, being on a tour for a year, you know, managing 5 tracks and having some stressful days isn't going to suit your fancy. So.
No, I feel like I could imagine it would be very easy to start to spiral
Yeah.
in that role if you allowed yourself to, because
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a lot more things go wrong than you're probably used to in
Yes.
a rehearsal or show space, because it's just what it is. Which also, how cool to like lean into the beauty and just the natural being of a live show, that things
Live. Yes.
happen, you know, like things
Yes.
also. And my favorite quote of "It's not that deep." Like if you slightly
It's
mess up,
really
like
not.
it's,
Yeah.
gosh, I'm like getting healed just listening to you talk
Oh,
about it. I'm
you're
like,
so
yes, it's
sweet.
not that deep.
No, it's not. And like one of our ensemble members, her name is Beck. She plays Charmian in the show, and it's like one of the lead dancer roles. But she always says in the dressing room, like, "Guys, we're just on a floating rock, playing pretend and dancing and singing." Like, and that just like brings us all back, and it's so true. Yes, we have this joy-filled show that we get to bring to people and we want to do it well. But in hindsight, when all this other craziness is happening in our world right now, like we can just, we just get to dance and sing for our job. It's kind of incredible.
Like literally, how cool
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah.
I love it. And you recently said goodbye to your New York City apartment, which I know I like messaged you about. I was like, oh
So
my gosh,
sad.
that's so
Yeah.
sad. On that note, how have you adjusted to the swing schedule? How has that been?
Yeah.
Or
I
not, I'm
mean,
sorry, the tour. I'm sorry,
tour
tour.
schedule.
The
No,
swing
I
tour
understood.
schedule. You're like, I
Understood.
got it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my lease was up end of January and I'd been in it for 2 years and I loved it. I really did. I think that because I'm on tour definitely until September, end of September, it was just like, I don't know if I want to have to worry about a sublet or all these logistics while on tour, especially when I'm managing so much already. So it was more so that for me, that decision. But tour life is not for everyone. And you go into it with people telling you that. And so being a cruise ship girl in the past and also having an international relationship for 3 years, like I was used to traveling and kind of living in and out of suitcases. So it's been fine for me. I think the hardest part is just like finding a routine in each city because your hotel changes, your Airbnb changes. Sometimes you don't have a fridge and a microwave. And then you're like, what do I do? Or the gym at the hotel is terrible. And so you end up having to like Uber 20 minutes every day to a gym. Everything can change each week because we're on a tour that does like week changes. We're not sitting down in
Yeah.
long periods of time. So yeah, it's just that kind of thing for me that I've kind of struggled with is
Yeah.
I love a routine, but I have to give myself grace that not every city is going to abide by what I like to do. Yeah.
Yeah, your expectations. Do you have any
Yeah.
specific, like one thing or rituals that you're able to make it a little bit more normal in the constant change?
Yeah, I try to take a walk every day depending on the time of day. And so that's always my thing is like if I don't see anything in the city, I will guarantee I will walk around wherever we're at and also find a good coffee spot. So that's kind of my ritual
Key.
daily, weekly that
No,
brings me joy.
you're like survival a little bit,
Yes,
just surviving. But no, I love that because but you're time blocking now, which we kind of touched
exactly.
on. So
Yeah.
you're time
Yeah.
blocking.
Yeah.
How do you feel like one, time blocking, and then two, having so many different roles allows you to show up in your other roles better?
For
Does
sure.
that make sense?
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's what got me when I had this initial training with my boss was that was what I was craving. Was I was like, I want to be able to show up so fully at each of these jobs when needed and balance it all because we know it's possible. We see people who are like doing the most all the time. And of course, there's parts of their life that are stressful and hard and all of these things, but it's very possible to live multiple aspects of your life very efficiently. And I just wanted to get to that place. And so that's exactly why I went for it because that was the answer I was searching for. I was like, I feel so crazy sometimes. And like, I have to do the most for everything and everyone all the time. And putting like time blocks on when I reply to emails or I'm going to go over the show during this hour before that really helped me. Yeah.
It's funny because when I started time blocking too, I was almost hesitant towards it because it almost stressed me out more. But it's something about knowing that you can release that because you're like, well, I actually have time for that. I know I have time for that later. I blocked time for it. I can release that because
Yes.
I'm sure, especially as your brain is adjusting to being a swing and you have a million things like flying through your brain, it's like, okay, go away and like let me focus in on that, which I love. How do you feel like being a dancer, just a dancer in general, has helped you in marketing roles?
I actually was just looking at a post on Instagram. You probably have seen it too, because I feel like we're on the same side of Instagram.
Probably.
But basically, how dancers have
We're
super
on the
brains.
algorithm, yep.
Yeah. Dancers have super brains, and there's this whole like study that showed that. And like, even if you gave up dance, like you could be an incredible entrepreneur because of this, this, and this. And it spoke to me so truly, because even though, yes, I'm still dancing, I'm also exploring this other side of what I like and appreciate and enjoy doing. And those things are having organization, taking feedback and applying it immediately, right? All of these things that are necessary in daily life, being able to engage with others, like truly engage. I feel that's something that we don't talk about enough in dance. Like, you're basically obviously physically forced to connect and all of these like dance numbers you're in and stuff. But I just remember so many times growing up, like having to just like stare at someone in class and just like breathe and be. If you've ever taken like Al Blackstone's class, that's how he starts it. It's just finding someone, saying hi, and sharing space. And I feel like all of those traits that you're using when you're growing up a dancer and continuing to train as one just truly fold over. And this is like a future dream of mine, but I really want to create something where all of my employees are like ex dancers. Like I just need, and it's not like in the dance world. Like we've moved out of that, but I want them to be on my team. Like if someone on their resume has like a BFA in dance, or they worked a competition, or you're hired, because I know what to expect. Your work ethic is going to be insane.
I think that we've take it, I don't want to say for granted, but we forget. It's like when you have something comes naturally to you, you don't realize that it's a superpower. So I've been loving seeing those posts as well. And it's like a lot of things I've been posting about too, of like you get so much more from dance than like you realize. And my favorite one too, I don't know if you've seen this one, where it talks about the instant gratification, where you don't fight for that anymore, because we know how to play the long game, and we know how to keep showing up and take notes and look at data and just get better. And you kind of have to flip your mindset to be positive to quite literally survive, like we've already talked about, because it's so easy to consume you and just make it spiral. Maybe you're going to start like a cool marketing company and take over the world and make it better. And please hire me when you do that. Thank you so much.
No, yes. It's
on the topic of having, two-part question, having things outside of dance, why do you think it's important to have other things like outside of dance that are not necessarily specifically dance? And what would you say to someone who maybe feels stress or guilt, not even just professionally not having something else other than dance? I did air quotes if you're not watching, but even I know I've had times in my journey when I was younger of like, I have to eat, sleep, breathing, dance. And if not, I had felt guilty.
Yeah, I feel like that was definitely the mindset, especially like a few decades ago. Like, I don't think you could have been in the dance world and not thought that. So I think what the challenge is growing into this new era in so many ways, and still holding on to some of those old beliefs, because those are the teachers that taught us or taught them. So it's taking some time, I think, for sure, for it to feel completely locked in everywhere you go. But I do think there's hope in that. And I think was so real. Like growing up, I knew I couldn't dance forever. Like I knew I wasn't going to be performing on a Broadway stage until I was 60, nor do I really want that. And like the excitement of knowing that I could reinvent myself at some point is still something that like fires me up. Like how cool that I lived this amazing life and I'm living it now and doing all these things, but how even cooler that like some of the best days are still ahead of me in a whole different trajectory. But I have found it really difficult, I will say, to be like when people ask, like, what do you do? Or how do you, when you're meeting someone, which happens a lot on tour, like for the first time, you're like, oh, well, I'm a dancer. And even though I'm singing and acting and dancing every single day with this tour, I still say I'm a dancer, because that is like,
I introduced you as a dancer. Yeah, because that's just what we do. Yeah.
And like, technically, I'm an actor. I'm a performer. I'm a singer, but none of these things feel at home to me as much as like dancing, because that's just how I spent 25 years of my life, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you realize that like there's so much more to you, which has been my whole journey in like the past 2 years because I had an injury and I love marketing and I love all these other things. So that's something that I've been having to really own, but also not hate. Like I love that I'm a dancer, but it can't be the only thing that I introduce myself as. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it makes perfect sense to me because when I decided I was going to step away from performing, I literally for a few months, and we talked about this before, where I was like, nope, not a dancer, because you feel like I felt almost like guilt and like
Yeah.
I was like grieving a part of me where it's like, no, it's going to show up in so many different ways. But also then on the flip side, like you said, that you have to have other things because it informs you as a dancer and it makes you
Yes.
show up better. And also, how can you be an actor if you don't have real life? Like you have to have something to pull from.
Exactly. No, it's so true.
No,
Yeah. And I saw a post of yours recently
that's what,
about that too. And I was like, this is so, I don't know, this rings true for so many of us because whether they're experiencing it now or they know they're going to experience it one day when they decide to leave dance or what it be, like that's something we should all have on our radar. I think, like I mentioned, like I've lived a lot of life in Europe and like spent a lot of time over there. And one of their first questions is never, what do you do? It's very much like an American thing. It's so crazy. Like their job is just the thing that
I
makes
can't even
money.
conceptualize.
I know. It's just the thing that makes them money to like live their life. It is not their being. And of course there's dancers over there. I've auditioned over there. Like people love it and are talented, but they just have such a better understanding of like, this is this and this is that. And two of those things can exist without taking up my entire world. And I hope we get there too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all just, for us hindsight and we've lived it and hopefully just giving it to the next generation. I know you are also passionate about paying dancers what they deserve and fairness. So why to you is it so important to dismantle the starving artist narrative? And how does that tie into your own story or multi-hyphenate approach?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think growing up in a small town and having this big dream, that was always the fear people had for me was that, yes, you're talented, but you're not going to make a living doing this thing. And it wasn't my parents. It was never my parents. It was never my friends. It was never Miss Jin, my dance teacher growing up. It was all these outsiders who just like, to be fair, played it safe and found a fine life doing that. For me, that was always the fear. And you watch movies and you see that, you see that kind of idea of a starving artist. And I knew that wasn't the case. And I actually, when my mom went to the audition with me for my college program, there was a talk back with the parents and Rhonda. And she verbatim said, my job is to make sure your kid makes a living in the arts once they graduate. And that was the first time that like someone so clearly was like, we will make that happen for them. And there is a way to do that because X, Y, and Z. And so ever since then, I've been like on a quest to make that happen. And I want to feel financially free and I deserve to feel that and also feel passionate in my work. And so like I made it to where I lived on my own in New York and I still had this dream and I was auditioning and taking class when I wanted to, but also had this really cool remote job that I really enjoyed. It was kind of a unicorn job. And so all of those things made me realize like I could set a boundary because I didn't need to accept the $400 a week job because I knew I was worth more. And I could also have this other option to do something that's fulfilling. And for some of my friends, that's teaching dance as well, or that's, judging, which I also do. So I found a way to make all of these things that I love work. And I know that everyone else can do that too. Like just because the other dancer, is working the restaurant job and you might hate your life there, that doesn't mean you have to stay there to make money or do things that you want to do. And I was just so passionate and I still am because what do you mean you were paying actors $400 a week in 2018 and you're still paying $400 a week in 2026? What do you mean? And that's non-union work. That's not equity.
It's
but
just
like
oh.
It's crazy. And what we do is insane. And so like, if I'm ever lucky enough to produce a show or any of that, like you will absolutely be paid fairly for your work regardless of if it's union or not. Come on. And the sad thing about is that so many of these people at the top of like theaters and things were them at one point. And so that's why it's just so hard for me to swallow that pill and be like, I'll be better for them. Even if I have, like when we were at Empower and I had my assistant come help me because I was still battling that injury. She's 18, but I paid her. Like I Venmo'd her a little something because what do you mean you come and spend 4 hours of your Saturday with me and it's just supposed to be free? Like I want to show her and the younger generation that no, if you do good work and you show up and you're spending time out of your day helping me, like I'm going to help you,
Yeah, it's like, how are we ever going to break the cycle? And I think I have that same frustration with certain aspects of pay as well, where I don't know where the shift happened generationally, why I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of our generation is like, let's actually fix this. And
Mhm.
sometimes it feels like that generation is like, well, I had to deal with it, so you have to deal with it, which is so mind-boggling to me and a whole nother like discussion that we do not have to get into. But I think what's so cool about your specific story is the expectation, because that was not something that anyone in the professional dance world maybe necessarily honed in on. And I
Yeah.
think that could have also helped with your bigger picture approach
Yeah.
to auditioning, because you're like, actually, no, there's more than just booking a job. And unfortunately, like the logistics of life, and you have to be able to live, where I feel like where that hindered me was, it was just like, well, I mean, yes, I have to make money, but I just want to book the job. Like that's all that matters. And then it's giving so much more power to directors and to companies rather than being like, well, I'm my own person. I could take care of myself. I have
Yes.
autonomy. I have things going on. But I also am a good dancer and I'm a good performer and I
Yes.
can add value to your show.
Exactly.
Which, just with that approach. Yeah. And let's keep talking about it, everyone listening. And it can change.
And be the leading force in that too, any chance you get.
Yeah.
And I know Emily is fighting for that too, with how she treats her teachers. Everyone who's creating something new now, I have so much hope and excitement for, because we get it. And that's so exciting now that so many of us are starting to like transition and build these spaces. Like it's only gonna get better. And so we just have to keep doing the better work.
No, I have hope too, where Emily was that person that literally goes, here, Gabby, I paid you more than what you asked for because everyone asked for more than you did. But I'm going to be fair and I'm going to give you, like, she could have easily just paid me what I asked and just been and I would have been grateful. I would have been like, awesome. Like, thank you because how many times have you tried to teach somewhere and they're like, oh, well, we can't do that.
Can't. And so,
you're
yes. Yeah, exactly.
You're like, well, own it, your worth. And you're like, no, because I don't need this job.
Right.
Like, you can say that, where you're like,
exactly. And I know
I really need money.
I know having choice is a privilege, and I do not discount that. The fact that I'm able to make certain choices in my life that certain people can't, I will never not understand that part of my life being blessed. And I just hope and pray that every dancer can have a choice, because then you don't exhaust yourself doing things you don't want to do that don't actually bring you closer to your goal. And I think as soon as I figured that out, that was everything that changed the game for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And privilege or not, you also don't have to discredit yourself to that. I know you also worked hard on top. You know what I mean? So it's a combination of all of it and taking that control back into your own hands, which, speaking of, representation also matters deeply to you as it does to me. What is one way that you've seen or you want to see things shift in that way for studios, auditions, productions in general?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you want to see people on a stage or on a screen or whatever it be that represents the real world at large. And so luckily I am thriving in a production that does that. And honestly, this is the first time in my career where I think I've seen it so clearly. And I've actually heard from, the other day we did a talk back, and there was a sweet young dancer in the audience, and she told Beck she was her hero because she looked like her. She was represented on stage. And I'm like, I know, same, because it's you're just coming out to do
so emotional.
I know. You're coming out to do a 4 count of 8 solo, trying to entertain the audience. And you have no idea that in that moment it clicked for that girl that I can do this too because she looks like me, you know? And so I think like we have to remember that in all spaces. And so any casting team, I think now is like definitely understanding that because we're getting better and we're growing. And, you know, you see these cast announcements and you're like, yes, look at that. Look at all of that. But there's still places to go, especially in dance. I think bodily, like my whole thesis in college was about beyond the ballet body type. Like, because I don't have that. And honestly, that was a huge thing for me going into the professional world was like, oh, well, I didn't get it because I don't have a six pack. Or like, I didn't get it because my thighs are really muscular. Even though I love my legs and I love how I look, like that representation was just hard to find, especially like in 2018. So, I'm very grateful to work on a production where that is extremely present and not in a way where it's like, stunted. It's believable. It's true. We have multiple folks that are non-binary in our cast, right? We have dressing rooms that support that, right? So we're not going off of female ensemble or male ensemble. It's Juliet crew, if you identify that way. Romeo crew, if you identify that way. May crew, if you identify that way. And it just makes the workspace feel so accepting and like you belong. That's all we're chasing. Yeah.
That you literally summed it up so perfectly. The you belong. And yeah, I can speak from my own experience as well that is definitely not the case at a lot of places now.
Yeah.
But it is nice to like hear, and I'm sure for you to experience that, to have a little bit more hope, and
Yeah.
everyone else there can see that it's possible and they can move in that direction, because at the end of the day, like we're we're never going to get paid as much as professional athletes. Like we don't bring in that money. So if it's not a good environment and you're not enjoying it, like literally what's the point?
Why? Then why? Correct.
Like
Correct.
like what why and back to my original point and what I say all the time, like it's not that deep. So like why are we to
Yeah.
make it a good safe environment for people? It's art. And man, I love that. That's really awesome that you
Yeah.
get to be a part of that, and like they picked a good person to spread the message of that as well. I also the last thing that I'm also very passionate about that you are as well is the mindset of why not me,
Yeah.
from not from like the not from ego, but from just that belief. Where how do I want to word this? How do you feel that slowly like evolved? I'm sure you weren't just like, why not me right away? How do you think that evolved? And how do you think someone that's working to get to that headspace can start to make those steps to get there?
Yeah. So why not me actually came from my acting teacher in at Pace. Her name's Donna Drake, and she was in the original production of A Chorus Line. And she grew up a dancer. She got on a bus at 18, auditioned for A Chorus Line, booked it, you know, and she could sing and act too, but she was a dancer. So I saw myself in her story so much. So I think that helped me. So when she told us this in acting, like, why not me? I was just like, yes, because it happened to you. Why not me? You know? And she just said it was such like faith and trust that all of us will find that at some point. And so ever since then, I like wrote it in my notes app. I put it on a sticky note. And it's just something that I think we're mechanically wired to think about, like the negative bias for sure. Like we all know this. And so if you can have that like statement or that thing that you connect with that automatically switches it to optimism, I just feel that you live your life in such a better place. And especially in a career like this where you're constantly, you know, trying to show teams why you deserve to be there, that still doesn't change. Like it could, why not me? And maybe that day it's not me because I'm too tall, or maybe it's not me because you need someone to cover this role that I'm not vocally ready for yet, but I can do all the other things in that job, right? Or it kind of like we were talking about earlier, it takes you out. It zooms you out and you're like, why not me? Because I can do that. But also if like I'm not ready for it, then I'll go to the next thing and it'll be another why not me? Because I deserve to be here too, just as much. So I think it's
And I love
you know, you're good. I think it's a lot of like that inner critic, or when you get a little uncomfortable, you feel that knot in your stomach of like, am I supposed to be here? Is this too big of a room for me? Is this too lofty of a dream space for me to enter? And then you say that and it immediately kind of grounds you, which is something we're all just searching for. Yeah.
Literally searching for a little glimpse of belonging and certainty. But I think, the more we can get confident and comfortable with the fact that you're never going to be certain probably about anything in life, especially in dance, then it's like you have to give yourself the certainty almost. And like why, I love the why not me too, because it's not coming from that ego place. It doesn't sound, I think there's a difference between why not me and like,
today
you
it'll
should
be
hire me. Like,
like
because you have to kind of go in right with that confidence, but it makes it gentle and come from a non-cocky place and just like here I am and
exactly.
I love it. Yeah. Looking back on your journey, what is one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
The advice I'd give myself is something that I'm still actually giving myself, and it's to not sweat the timeline. Everything will unravel when it's supposed to for you, and this year has been such a indicator of that, and so I'm trusting that even more now. And that would be the advice I would give my younger self. Yeah, she needed that.
It's so crazy too when we met this summer.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to be coming to Houston, rude. And I just remember like having brief conversations with you about it in between teaching and stuff. And then all of a sudden I feel like I blinked and it was like, hello, Angelia. And I was like,
it was literally the week after. Yeah.
Was it the week after? It felt so fast. Right? I was like, okay, like, because when you talked to me about it, you were so at peace. Like you really were.
Yeah.
I feel like even like people give dating advice if you can't be searching for it. Just once you're just open to it and you're just like, here I am, and it came. And anyway, if listeners were to remember one thing, what would you want their main takeaway to be from this episode?
Ooh, I think I'd love for their one takeaway to be, why not me?
I was going to say, you could really say, the same thing.
That's truly it. Like that utter belief in yourself and kind of knowing that not every space is for you, and why should it be? Because that would be crazy. But knowing that the right ones will find you because you're optimistic and genuinely excited to present what you have to offer and believing in that. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's meant for you won't pass you.
It really won't. And I will tell that story till my grave. Yeah.
It will be like, nope, you're meant for this one. Oh my God. I'm obsessed. Ryan, where can we find you and follow you? And if you're in a city nearby, go see you.
Yes. Yeah. So my personal socials, I'm mostly an Instagram girl. I'm trying the TikTok thing, but it's kind of hard for me. But Ryan B. Winkler is where I'm at. And then if you want to come see us on tour, search anjuliet.com. You will find our national tour schedule along with all of the other productions we have going on across the world. And we're coming to a city near you. So would love to see you this next 6 months. If you're coming, reach out via Instagram. I love especially to engage with dancers and take them backstage so they can see the dream up close. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Up close, full circle.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. You guys comment, like, subscribe, all the podcast things. Go follow Ryan because she posts all the great things. Love you. Thanks for listening. And we will kick it with you next time.